Introducing to you first, the challenger fighting out of the red corner. Entering the ring, wearing black trunks with white trim, joining us from Stoneham, Massachusetts. He weighed in at a ready 152 1/2 pounds. With a record of 22 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. He has 12 wins coming by way of knockout. Here is the determined challenger, the world-ranked super welterweight contender, introducing Greg, the Villain Vendetti. And his opponent across the ring, the defending world champion, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing black trunks with red and white trim. He is fighting out of Miami, Florida, by way of Guantanamo, Cuba. He weighed in at 153 pounds. His record stands at 26 wins, 3 losses, and 3 draws, with 15 wins coming by way of knockout. Tonight, making the first defense in his second reign as world champion, here is the defending 2-time WBA and the IBO Super Welterweight Champion of the world, introducing Erislandy, the American Dream, Lara. And our third man to the ring, the referee now to give instructions. We have Jerry Cantu.
Your trunks are a little high, so right here is going to be illegal. Tu pantalón está un poco alto, quizás es legal. You've been giving your instructions in the dressing, giving a good, clean, hard fight. Estás recibiendo sus instrucciones en el camerino. Todo lo antes, good luck.
Tonight's odds are provided by Fox Bet, and Erislandy Lara is a big favorite. If you bet $100 on Lara, you'd win $2. You pay out $102. You bet $100 on Vendetti, you would win $1,400 with the payout of $1,500. So the powers that be, the intelligentsia, not believing that Vendetti will be a successful villain here tonight. First round underway, our main event. Greg Vendetti stepping up in class, taking on the longtime champion and contender, Erislandy Lara, and immediately able to find a home with that left hand. Lennox, what are you looking for early here for Vendetti to survive in this fight?
Well, you know, Vendetti's looking for a way in right now. He's trying to check out Lara and see what he can do and how he can get to him. He wants to get a little closer to him, obviously, because, you know, he can't stay on the outside because he's shorter. So he's trying to get in a little closer and see if he can get to Lara's body.
Vendetti telling us, hey, look, I think it's perfect timing. My age, my experience level, he's a bit on the decline. He thinks the timing is right. But Joe Goosen, you know, like when you step up in class, sometimes the man you're facing is doing things you don't even quite understand. And I don't know how wide that gap is, though.
You can absolutely possibly. That's a perfect way to put it, Brian. A great way to put it, because Lara's got more tricks in his bag than, you know, Vendetti's ever seen before. And he's going to probably use some of them tonight on him. But, you know, look, I mean, Vendetti's doing the right thing right now. He's got a tight package going. He's got his arms in tight. He's got his chin down low. And hopefully those punches are bouncing off his glove and not off his chin. And maybe he'll be able to get close enough to sneak something in on him. But look at Lara. He's just going to push you down, turn you. He'll probably do that most of the night until he softens up Vendetti, if Vendetti can't get in and do some damage.
Lara already able to land some shots as well, finding in there. And Vendetti, you're right, that's a good way of putting it, tight package. He does have a very tight hook and a strong hook as well, but will he be able to close the gap? You can see Lara is able to, you know, get in the pocket pretty quickly and find him there, even with that uppercut right to the head of Vendetti.
Yeah, and we talked about in the fighter meetings with Vendetti about the uppercut that was assuredly going to come from Lara. And he goes, that's where I really worked on keeping my elbows in and closing up my guard, you know, so he can't slide it up the middle. But, you know, if you do that, Lara will just go around it and hit your body there and open you up. So he's got a million things, a million ways to get you. And let's see if Vendetti can get in there and at least score something and, you know, get the respect of Lara somehow.
Tries with the right hand and bulldozes in.
And I say 2 steps back, okay?
Getting a warning there from Jerry Cantu. So, very good referee.
Great referee.
Opening action here in round number 1. Vendetti, by the way, had won 16 in a row before his last big step up in class against Michel Soro in Paris. That was in 2018. And was actually, you know, fighting quite well in the first round, but then got caught with a string of right hands and got starched in the second round. Here, good left hand from Lara. We're going to stay right here.
Left hand is just going to cut across and down. See, southpaws live off of that. If you make that move to your left as a right-hander in front of them, they're just going to shoot that straight left hand right down on you all the time. Sometimes you go the opposite way of what a left-hander thinks you should do. In other words, don't always move to your left. Move to your right sometimes. That confuses a southpaw. So let's see if he does what Joe asked him to do, and that's get around him. Which way he chooses, I don't know, but it's a smart move. Don't stay in front of him and just make slips. Try to get around him. Try to pivot and see what comes of it.
Joe, that's good insight too, you know, because you've trained a lot of southpaws, so you know.
Yeah, it's look, they spar. Southpaws spar with right-handers every day. Right-handers rarely ever spar with southpaws. They know your every move.
Vendetti has to come forward.
And just as I saw that, a little success for Vendetti. And then he also, Joe, had a lead right hand that had some success. Let's watch once again. So you're going to have to make it a brawl.
See, what Lara did there, he was pushing down on Vendetti, and he had his arms extended, and he was going to pivot out. But Vendetti just came right over the top with that left hook. And this is a punch shot. Yeah, and that's the punch that Lara does get hit with that puts him in jeopardy.
And plus, you know, he was looking at the referee at that time, and, you know, in boxing, you got to protect yourself at all times.
Well, Vendetti's going to have to make this rough, right, Joe? I mean, we're kind of seeing that already. He's got to make this a fight.
Just the way Castano did it, same thing. And by waiting out there, see, he shouldn't be waiting right now. You got to make some quick head movements, footwork, like his trainer told him, be light on your feet. You can't plant yourself in front of a guy like Lara. So you got to be in constant, perpetual motion and just keep trying to grind on him. Right there, see? And something will come of it. Yeah, Lara threw a hook, but Vendetti got a right hand off of it.
Vendetti there with some body shots there with the right hand. Again, he's going to have to make this more of a brawl, and he knew that. He said, look, I'm going to have to double up, triple up on the jab. I can't wait for a receipt. I can't stand there in front of this guy. So he's going to have to be perpetual motion and force Lara to fight.
Lara's going to, hopefully Lara's corner talks to him and tell him to, you know, go with that uppercut, that left uppercut, because he's been great with it so far and very accurate with it.
Vendetti trying to close this gap, fighting a little bit closer.
He's got a lot of fights under his belt. This is his time to try to take advantage of one of the great fighters of all time, a world champion, and prove himself. Look, he's here to win this fight, and he's going to try hard tonight.
That's true, Joe.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make you make your name off of great fighters. This is what Vendetti wants to do. He wants to come in here and make his name off of Lara, and you know, he's doing a great job attempt at doing it right now.
Yeah, great point, guys, because look, here's Vendetti again springing in, and he knows he's got to put himself in uncomfortable situations, because that's no man's land when you get in there, and you've got to close that gap and get on the inside, but you can get punished on the way in.
You can, but, you know, just like that one, that last rush he put on Lara. Look, Lara did the same thing he did that got him caught with that left hook in the first round, which was pushing down on him and trying to look at the referee and escape. Since that first good left hand that Lara landed, he has not really caught Vendetti clean with something really hard.
It's a good point. Yeah, because early on it looked like, okay, he's going to start schooling this guy. It really has not happened. Right. He gets warned here. But Vendetti has been able to, close that gap and get a little close. You got to close that gap. You got to get through no man's land and then rough him up on the inside and hopefully score some points. You see the punches landed. That's heavily in favor of Erislandy Lara. 32-15, 7 zips so far in this round.
Now, Vendetti just got warned for something from Jerry Cantu, and I couldn't really make out what it was. Maybe being too rough on the inside or using a shoulder. Yeah, using a shoulder. I mean, you know, look, when a guy is sitting on your neck, pushing down on you, what are you going to do? I mean, you got to wiggle out of that. You got to use your man strength, whether it's your shoulders, your forearms, or whatever. So, I don't necessarily agree with that. I didn't see Vendetti doing anything wrong there, but maybe I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain times where he comes in pretty close with the head, so maybe the referees warn him about that as well.
Well, I think it was a soft warning too, right? I mean, it wasn't like I'm taking a point away.
It was
like that. It was kind of, hey, don't do that.
It was, but I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes it can make that fighter now hesitate a little bit. As a coach, I hate that only because I know it may be planting a seed, and my fighter said, hey, don't be so rough. Don't keep doing what you're doing. I want you to do something something different, and it may not be to your
that could be successful.
You're right. It may not be to your advantage, you know.
Lara able to snap out the jab here and there in this round. Round 3, he's able to take his time. We're getting close.
Right.
I appreciate you wearing the same suit that Lennox has.
Yeah, what is that? The Bobsy twin thing. Forget it. Back to the fight. Here we go. I'd like to. I think this thing is going to heat up pretty soon because we're in the 4th round here, and Lara's got to start letting his hands go a little bit more. I know Vendetti isn't doing a whole heck of a lot. He's trying to get inside first. See, he's got to do that, and he just hurt him with that left hand.
Oh, that was a good
left hand. Vendetti lifting up off his feet too. He got starched by that. He's trying to regain his composure.
Yeah.
Well, he ate that pretty well. He comes back in, looks to fight. Lunging and trying to close that gap. Got hit very hard there from Lara.
See, Laura's doing the right thing. He's keeping Vendetti at the space where he wants to keep him, so he can catch him with that left hand coming in.
Well, he's been Lennox throwing these shots like kind of that pawing, but that left hand he threw just a moment ago. What is he pointing at his shoelaces? And he threw that with conviction. That was a very different left hand that he just threw.
Yeah, the left hand that he threw is coming straight across. Sometimes it's coming with conviction where he turns it to the side a little bit. But, he's doing the right thing right now.
And it looked like he did point to his shoes. What was that?
It's point to your shoes, look down, and then I'll hit you.
Yeah, like the oldest trick in the book.
The oldest trick in the book.
At this level. Yeah. That's what a world-class defensive specialist does. Whether you're Floyd Mayweather taking the air out of the ball, against Canelo, or Lara now having Vendetti throw 28 punches around when he averages 70.
Yeah.
So he is, because of his ability to make him miss, Vendetti is just not able to throw the same volume.
This is where he's got to let his hands go. I mean, Lara just let him in. I mean, that's where you got to go.
Yeah, Vendetti makes that move. He makes that move, and then all of a sudden, he doesn't go through with it. So he's got to decide what to do.
Erislandy, Lara, nice combination there. A right hand, by the way, I mentioned his trainer, Joe Ricciardi, has been with him from the outset. He's also promoted by Ken Casey of the Dropkick Murphys. Very active in the Boston fighting scene there. Our researcher, Joe, Mark Ortega, said to me, the Dropkick Murphys are a band that plays a lot of Irish music. I said, Mark, I know.
Yeah, right.
I've been to Fenway Park. I'm Irish. I get it. I work for MLB Network. Yes, when you're at a Red Sox game, you hear the Dropkick Murphys.
Yes.
That's who that is.
And speaking of Mark Ortega and Justin Goodman, our crack research team, I just got to give them their props because they are terrific with the information they provide to us, right, Brian?
Outstanding. Week after week, the lay of the land. And Vendetti making a good effort here. And that's what I mentioned, the fight against Yoshi Kamagai. That was a quality win for Vendetti. So you need those level of progression fights to keep stepping up and at least have a shot so you can at least recognize things from a guy like Lara. Yet, obviously, it's still very difficult. Round number 5. Lara getting the better of this so far, but Vendetti making it interesting at times.
Yeah, Lara is he's really poised against the ropes. You can tell he shows the experience level in this fight. He takes his time, he picks his shots, he doesn't like to waste punches, but he knows the kind of punches what he wants to throw against Vendetti. And
Lara, I gave Greg Vendetti the second round, just not much was done there, and I felt he landed just a few more better punches that left an impression with me. But overall, I think Erislandy, Lara is having his way and having his fight at this point.
Interesting. Okay, Marcos, I didn't expect Vendetti to even take a round, but that shows you that a judge could reasonably have it that way. Interesting. Erislandy, Lara getting the better of it here. By the way, he wants Canelo, or he wants the winner of Charlo Rosario, which is September 26th. In his last fight, he knocked out Canelo's older brother, Ramon, which is, not the same thing, but I guess you feel like you knocked out Canelo's brother. next best thing.
Yeah, I'm sure Canelo wants revenge for that. I mean, somebody knocked out my brother. I want revenge. Take the real brother.
That was a close fight. Again, 2014, Lara, and frequently when we were talking about Canelo Alvarez and who has he fought, frequently Joe Goose and I brought up, hey, wait a second, fighting Austin Trout and Erislandy Lara back then, that was taking, that was a no-win proposition, fighting slick boxers.
Yeah, and Trout, a great left-hander as well.
Left-handers, nightmare, things of nightmares. Final seconds here. Vendetti trying to close the gap.
He throws great power shots because he digs in. He basically takes the punch and then he digs his feet in and he comes back with a power shot.
Lara had said of Canelo, because he wants the winner of Charlo and Rosario, but he said, look, Canelo is only fighting dead people now. I thought that was a bit unfair, but Canelo's still looking for an opponent, by the way, so whenever anyone says, hey, I'll fight Canelo, it's like, well, Canelo is evidently still looking for people. Round 6 here, and Lara has been competitive at the highest level for a long, long time, and he still looks slick tonight. Your thoughts, Joe? Any slippage, or does he still look like he's at the top?
Well, look, he is at the top. He's the world champ. But, here's the thing. I'm kind of looking at the fight here, and Vendetti's doing a couple of good things in the last round. He's starting to slide over to the right instead of going to the left to he could open up more, but right now Vendetti's doing a good job.
So you're saying the answer is yes?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Lara, to me, again, you're saying that he wants to fight at the biggest fights. And you mentioned the WBA thing. He has a regular belt. I just want to clarify that. Jason Rosario is the super champion of WBA. He has the WBA and IBF, just for people wondering, wait, is this a world title fight? Look, it's the next best thing, but there's a lot of title belts out there, so I don't call him a world champion right now.
It's a little confusing, but I will say this. I've been with fighters for a long time, but when you got great fighters like Lara, they rise to the occasion. Sometimes they just don't perform as well as they're capable of when they don't have the biggest threat in front of them.
Well, I think he looks very good. I think Vendetti is at that level just high enough to make things difficult.
Exactly.
Vendetti, here to your point that you made a few moments ago, he's fighting hard. He's given everything he can. He's at a certain level, but he's not so far away to not pose a decent threat.
Yeah, I agree. Vendetti has picked up the pace a lot more than he did in the last few rounds, but he's also taking chances, and when you take chances, you're going to get hit. So he's got to make sure his defense is intact when he's coming in against...
Did any of it really score well? No. But he's making that effort. And we're in the 7th round right now.
He's got to try, I think, Joe, is the point, right? Yeah. He's got to. Sometimes it looks crude. He's lunging in, but he's making an effort. You see the punches landed, according to CompuBox, 75-45 in favor of Erislandy Lara. Brian Kenny, Joe Goosen, Lennox Lewis, as well as Heidi Androl and Marcos Villegas here in Los Angeles. 7th round scheduled for 12 because that regular belt is on the line. And Lara still looks sharp. I mean, that's what I was asking you, Joe. Like, if you're Jermell Charlo, Jason Rosario, Julian Williams, Jared Hurd, and you're thinking, hey, does Lara still have it? Is he still, like, that level opponent? Looks like he is.
Without a doubt. I don't think there's a question.
Well, he's 37, Joe. There's a question.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think there's a question that he still will be competitive with all the names that you mentioned right there. It wasn't that long ago he had that great fight with Jared Hurd, who was a monster in the ring. Again, they'll rise to the occasion. And a guy like Lara, he'll admit, he goes, my legs aren't exactly the same, but what you give away with your legs, you gain an experience, and he's got a bag full of tricks. So,
good uppercut there by Vendetti as he came in on the inside once again as he's trying to the body. He is a little bit closer as Lara gets in more of that defensive shell. Lennox, what would you tell Vendetti? Like, what's applicable that you can actually tell him that would help him in this fight?
It's interesting because he said that Mike Tyson gave him a lot of inspiration watching Mike Tyson, but I don't see him really boxing like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson moves his head and he can get in quick. So these are the things he should have picked up from Mike Tyson, but he's not really doing it. And it's not It's not easy. But he counters well, and he countered well right there with that left uppercut. He's been seeing a lot of sunshine with that left uppercut tonight.
And to Lennox's point, which is a great point, Brian, is now what's Lara doing? He's abandoned moving. He's sitting in the pocket. He's saying, look, I'm gonna block some punches here, and I'm gonna find the openings and throw some uppercuts, body shots, or whatever, and start hurting the kid. So
is that a good idea, Joe?
Yeah, because he's actually better. Like Lennox said at the beginning of his opening, Lara can fight on the inside.
Yeah, Lara with a beautiful uppercut there once again. One thing I'd say about Vendetti is, everybody wants to have the power of Mike Tyson. He's very strong, but he's not explosive, right? He doesn't have that explosion of power and that snap. Even though those are decent thudding shots from Vendetti, he's not just going to take you out with one shot. That has not been the case in his career. No. 12 knockouts in his 22 wins. It's coming up on Wednesday. Happy birthday to Lennox Lewis here. Erislandy, Lara, and Greg Vendetti. As Lara changing his tactics, getting more on the inside and comfortable in the round 7 there. We're now in the 8th round, scheduled for 12. Vendetti, by the way, landed 13 punches. That's his best round of the night in the 7th round.
Yeah, because Lara's giving him an opportunity to punch. Are the punches landing and are really, really effective and hurting Lara? It doesn't look like it. I think Lara...
Decent body shots right there.
They are.
Those are landing.
They are. But I'm going to tell you, Lara's looking to do that. So he's a much better puncher.
Let me tell you
now, putting harder shots on there, too. Go ahead, Lennox.
Yeah, I was going to say in the Hurd fight, Hurd came at Lara and threw everything, and Lara answered back with power punches of his own.
Exactly. Lara fought most of that fight on the inside with Hurd, to tell you the truth.
And now Vendetti is getting his best chance as he's able to get on the inside, but Lara
boxing him and moving. The opportunities weren't there because Vendetti was, basically covered up most of the time. Here we go. Now here's an example of that. Lara just exploded out of there with a left and a right hook.
Yeah, we asked Erislandy Lara what he thought of Janelle Charlo versus Jason Rosario, and he said, either way, they'll have to face him. Then when pressed, he thought it would be a great fight, but he actually favored Janelle Charlo in that fight. But he would like the winner of that fight or another big name in this weight class or nearby. And he certainly looks sharp here tonight.
I think Jamel Charlo is going to be favored over just about anybody he gets in the ring with.
Tell you what, that was a close fight with Tony Harrison. I mean, obviously lost one, and then that last fight that we had, that was quite a brawl before it ended.
Tony Harrison is one of the most intelligent, slickest boxers in the game. He is very Mayweather-esque in his counter-punching abilities and his athleticism. He's really good. So just because it took him 11 rounds to stop him, that ain't a bad thing against somebody like Tony Harrison.
That was a very competitive fight. You see Marcos Villegas giving that second round to Greg Vendetti, and that's it. So that makes sense here, but fight is a little bit closer, and this is going to be a real test of the toughness of Greg Vendetti, because it is easy to get discouraged in there against someone who is just better than you are, but you always have the puncher's chance.
And so to Lennox or myself, which is what I do, corner work, the focus is not strange to us. We get this, and it's not difficult for us to get into it because...
Yeah, you know what? I like it without crowds. Especially boxing without crowds. You don't hear anybody go, boo!
Right. No, in case those of you don't know, training Chris Ariola, Sergey Lipinets was a big fight coming up.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to say you took 4 months off before, Joe. I just, the shutdown slowed things down.
It did for some people, yeah.
Yeah.
Good combination, by the way.
Evidently, I get it. I get it.
And of course,
Here, Joe, I want to ask you then, as a trainer, give me something concrete that you could tell Greg Vendetti, other than, hey, dig deep, kid. What would you actually tell him?
Well, look, I mean, I think we've kind of discussed it, at length, coming in here. He's got to get close to Lara, and he's got to do damage. Now, there's not much you can say. You can't say, I need a triple left hook from you and a right uppercut. It's whatever you can touch on the inside is what you want to do. And he's trying to do that as look, you got Lara in front of you, who's been everywhere, done everything, and it's not going to be easy to do no matter what you tell him to do. But what he's doing right now is exactly what he should be doing.
And what Laura's doing right now is giving him different angles. Anytime Vendetti comes in, Lara just turns to the side and helps him along like a matador.
Now, I will tell you, Bry, just to add one more thing, if Vendetti had the punching power of like when Angulo fought Lara back, some guys hit you on the arms, they hit you on the shoulders, and they hurt you, you know?
Lara going straight up the middle, and let's take a look at what Lennox was just talking about as Lara is able to be the matador here, Lennox. Take a look.
There you go. All he does is turn to one side, little elbow to help him along.
And get out of danger. You know, Lara, again, calls himself the American dream, and he says that means everything to him to be a U.S. citizen. He said he's seen so many of his former colleagues, boxers in Cuba, who have their careers languish, where he says he's so thankful that he's been able to achieve what he's wanted as a professional. And he is still at the top of his game, looking very sharp here against a game Greg Vendetti, but outgunned Greg Vendetti here in round 9. Vendetti tries with a right hand, just missed, but still trying to press the action.
Yeah, he hustled this round, Vendetti. Get inside. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't magic potions. He just said, get in there and rough him up, like we talked about. And that's, you know, look, that's the only thing that can capture the eye of the judges is who's outworking whom, who's landing better, who's really forcing their will on the other guy.
Vendetti getting the better of it with body shots, but that's about it. Overall, Lara outlanding Vendetti 117 to 74. A lot more headshots, but you know, gave him a few things in there, Joe. Just saying, even tap his shoulder, back him up. Always have to be moving forward. I always just look to see, is the corner telling you something that you can actually do, you know, rather than just, you know, something inspirational. But give me, you know, fighters are looking for something concrete.
Yeah, well, you know, here's then what you'd have to ask yourself as a cornerman, where is Lara vulnerable right now? And on the inside, when they're sitting nose to nose on the inside, he's not really that vulnerable for anything big. He keeps his hands up well. He knows how to protect himself, and I'm talking about Lara. So Vendetti's got it. That's why his numbers to the body were good, because the only thing really available to him was the body, like that, right there. Look how high Lara keeps his hands up. He sees everything that's coming. It's not easy to hit a guy like Lara on the chin.
Yeah, he was able to block all of those shots. At the same time, that right hand that he threw about 20 seconds ago, that just missed. So you have to give yourself a chance. And Vendetti is game, and he is trying to do just that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing about Vendetti, you know, when he comes in and he throws his combination, it's not like he's like trying to work on anything. He just throws his combination and he stops. When he really should be throwing more combinations and trying to force Lara to throw some punches. If Laura's not throwing any punches, then he should be throwing punches all the time.
Exactly right. That's a great point. Because sometimes
snap off a shot there too. Wow, that's a snap the head of Vendetti back.
You notice Vendetti really hasn't been hurt since that one clean shot he got hit with early in the fight. He really hasn't been staggered or buzzed or dropped or anything like that. He's kind of gotten used to Lara's power.
Well, it kind of makes him think twice about coming in. He's got to think about defense, got to think about Lara's left hand coming straight across, and he's got to think about Lara's right hook, which is very effective in this fight.
Yeah, but you don't want to overthink this, that's for sure. You know, because you're not going to win the round by thinking. You know, you got to do.
And put some real oomph on those shots to say, you're not just going to walk in here. But at 37, this is admirable. Again, you know, we get used to guys fighting older and older, but 37 in this weight class, that's up there. And Lara certainly looks pretty fresh. He's not dancing around an awful lot, but his hand-spin fighters like Ugas just roaming somewhere in the middle, incapable of beating anyone. Lara is that type of fighter as well. Just one weight class up at 154, a man that is better avoided, basically. You know, if you have a fighter, Joe Goosett, in this weight class, and you're thinking, hey, how about Lara? You might say, yeah, do we really need that?
Yeah, no.
Do I need this guy in my life? I don't know.
I'd rather fight a better right-hander than a lesser left-hander, to tell you the truth, because they, you know, we've already discussed this. Yeah, left-handers are a bane to me. I really don't. I like training them. I hate fighting them. That's pretty much the bottom line. But you're right. Lara is. And look, how much punishment has he really taken? He's only been dropped 3 times in his career, amateur or pro, and he's just an amazing guy. He's a tremendous defensive fighter. He's just a very difficult guy all the way around.
And Joe, he's still got his legs.
Yeah,
I think his legs are really good. He's still got a lot of pep in them. He reminds me of like Jordan as an example. Jordan in his young days was running all over the place, but when he got older, he got more, better, smarter. So that's Lara. Lara's smarter as a fighter, so he doesn't really have to move too much. He knows the movements to move.
Vendetti tries to make some hay on the inside, throwing some body shots, and that's his only chance. Lara covers up. There's still 1:30 to go. I mean, Lara, through the years, we talked about some of his losses. He also has wins over Alfredo Angulo. We mentioned Ishe Smith, Vanis Martirosyan, Yuri Foreman. It's like way back when, but he's got quite the resume of guys we haven't even mentioned.
Yeah, all the guys that he's gained experience from, he's taken something from each fight.
That's what I mean. And way back when Canelo Alvarez went to fight Lara, a lot of people were saying, wow, there's a lot to lose and not a lot to gain. And Lara has just been a very tough out for the top fighters in the world. Now, he'll want a title shot after this. I hope he gets it. I think he's earned it here, and we know how that works. It's sometimes difficult to get in perfect position, but Lara, by winning here tonight, is at least putting himself in that spot, and maybe he can get a shot.
Well, I think if anyone deserves it, obviously it's somebody like Lara, especially at this stage of his career. And, he's going to go out with a bang. And he's going to work as hard as he possibly can, and he'll pull out all the stops to win. And look, when he hangs them up, he'd like to know that he was able to do everything that was presented to him. And I think this year he's going to find out exactly where he stands.
There's a lot of interesting matchups. We mentioned that sensational 6. And we'll take a look at that just to give you an idea of the landscape. Sometimes it's hard. Interesting.
Thank you, birthday boy.
Well, that was a birthday gift right there. Okay. Wow, Lara's a little high. You had a little higher than I thought. 12th and final round. And you almost dropped an Errol Flynn in there.
Right, I know. I caught myself,
I know you
are
a Hollywood aficionado.
Yeah, right.
We understand that.
But
kids are now Googling like crazy.
Wait a minute. Errol Flynn did play Gentleman Jim Corbett, so.
Oh,
right.
Nice. Who beat John L. Sullivan?
That's right.
Yes, it all comes together here.
See, this is how I work, guys. Okay.
That was great.
Play along with me, and you'll have a good time. Here we go.
All right, so we've got 2.5 minutes to go here. Greg Vendetti, last chance. All right, so give me something plausible that he could do to try to close the gap here. Or is it just you're saying it ain't happening? Is that what you're saying?
I really don't think so. Look, anything can happen in boxing. We've seen it happen. We just talked about how Perella was stopped in the last second of his fight. So look, but I don't see that happening here. I think Vendetti's given a great account of himself. I think he didn't embarrass himself. He actually did fairly well, landed some good punches, but he's just not capable of beating a guy like Lara, as it turns out. But we gave him a chance, and we were hoping he could do better for himself. But look, I mean, it is what it is. Lara's just that great of a fighter, and Vendetti gave it his all, and it looks like it's going to be a 12-round decision, but he went the distance with Lara, which is saying something.
Well, yeah, Lara, again, the idea was, well, Vendetti is on the way up and Lara's on the way down, and I think a lot of this, to your point of, like, no shame in Vendetti's effort, is that Lara does not look like he has been...
Especially at this stage of the game. It's hard for guys like Lara or any of these guys at the top to get up for guys that you pretty much know they're going to beat.
Well, also, he's coming off the shutdown as well. Everyone has had to deal with that. Everyone has had to, deal with, training situations that are out of the ordinary. Greg Vendetti Vendetti very motivated here. This is a chance of a lifetime, and he's again fought very hard. But Lara just looks slick and sharp, and you see he's able to put lay the wood to Vendetti when he's had to.
Yeah, I mean, Vendetti has been trying hard. He's been trying to work out how do I get to Lara? What do I do? What punches do I throw? But with no success, because Lara has so much experience, and that's coming from his amateur background. He's seen these kind of guys before. He knows what to do.
Final seconds of this fight. Again, they fought 12. Greg Vendetti with his big opportunity. That's a hard shot from Lara, punishing Vendetti as he comes in, up on his toes.